Hey Johnny Cope, are you a walking yet, or are your drums a beating yet? If you were walking, I would wait to gang to the coals and...
So cool. Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
So you, it was quite interesting. The Bon Iver and Planxty kind of make sense together, sort of. Got this kind of gentle vibe, especially focusing in on Andy Irvine's contributions. The other one, the metal band, was kind of a lot different. Of
Yeah.
course, I like a lot of different kinds of music too.
It's a lot different in some ways, but other ways, the what is it called? Like the ukulele. This is a long word for those pipes that they use.
Oh, the Uilleann pipes.
Yeah, but they use some of those in the band in some of the songs.
Oh, hey, just a sec. I'm
Oh,
doing a Zoom meeting with somebody. Did you mean to come over now?
I came by 3 times because we had said like 3 years.
No, 6.
Oh, 6. Oh, never mind.
Oh, so sorry about that.
No worries. No
Um,
worries. It's not a big deal.
yeah, okay, all right. Slam the door when you're. Sorry, misunderstanding. um, so,
I like your
let's see.
setup.
Oh, thanks.
Really nice.
Yeah, cute couch, huh? I normally have a whole bunch of guitars behind that couch on individual stands, but I just received a one of these guitar racks, so you can put a whole bunch of one side by side, and I'm going to put that. I have to make it and put it up. I had to clear out the room in order to do a video session here. This is normally a recording studio, but I occasionally do video stuff here as well.
Nice.
But yeah, you were talking about the Uilleann pipes being similar or related somehow. What, like to, in what way?
Just the general like I generally get a fantasy feeling from Nightwish and Planxty,
Uh-huh.
and I just love it. Brings me back to when I watched well, I brief memory of seeing Lord of the Rings like in
hmm
theaters, but
hmm
brings me back to those times. So
Yeah.
for sure.
So the idea is that it's evocative of a sort of a fantasy vibe.
Yeah,
Uh-huh. Cool.
yeah.
It's interesting. I have a very different frame of reference for all that. But I hear you.
Mhm.
I thought you were going to say something else, but I've been playing Irish music and the Uilleann pipes for over 50 years now.
Right.
And I, uh, on occasion I've been, I play other kinds of music with different instruments, but I was in a folk rock band once where I played a bunch of the instruments, including the Uilleann pipes, on a few things, and in order to get my head around how to treat that outside of the traditional Irish music context where you're playing dance music mostly and it's full on all the time. There's no arrangement, per se. And that made me like, I had to kind of contextualize it in my mind, like how to approach this. How do I think about it? And the thing that made most sense to me was the way electric lead guitar is used in popular music, and it's not usually feathered in. It's either on or off, and you come in with a very assertively. And the Uilleann pipes don't have any dynamic range, very little. They have a tiny bit, So it's either on or off. And in Irish music, you're always just on, you know. But that doesn't make sense so much in popular music where you have to create an arrangement that makes way for the vocal, and you know, you're not the star of the show, you're not even an equal player, you're just an added spice that needs to come in and out. So it's a whole different way of, you know,
Mhm.
reference point.
Well, I'll go back to that metal band, the Nightwish.
Hmm.
They have a song called "The Islander" live
Hmm.
performance. Sorry, is that too loud in the background?
No, I don't know. I'm
Okay,
not hearing it's getting
I'm
filtered
next
out.
to a vending machine, so
All right.
um, I found a quiet place at campus.
I see.
Anyways, so in the beginning of the performance, like live, it's just the guy and the guitar,
Uh-huh.
for like probably like 5 or 6 minutes. Just it's a nice gentle ballad, and then like it comes in with the all the singers and the pipe player comes in like along with when the chorus jumps in. So it's a really nice use of the horns in a way that's not related to Planxty, but kind of is because
Uh-huh.
I'll go back to my beginnings with this is I mean I'm a huge my second favorite band of all times is Iron Maiden.
Hmm.
So I've always just loved the fantasy side of music and
Hmm.
like ancient history stuff. But like I was just really bored. I needed something to hold me over because I was doing Amazon delivery during the
Oh, uh-huh.
pandemic. So I was like, I need some new music to listen to, and on a I put this in the podcast too. Like on a whim, I turned on Dropkick Murphys radio on Spotify.
Hmm.
They had a couple Planxty songs. I was like, I never even heard this word before in my life. I have no idea what it means. And I was like, just listen to it. Like I just fell in love with it like immediately. So
Yeah, that makes sense.
mhm.
Um, I'm adjusting the volume here in various ways. Trying to get this right. I just put the meter up so I could see what's going on. Is that okay? Is that volume all right?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Um, let's see. Yeah, it's interesting. For me, Irish music is not about fantasy at all. And I'm not being argumentative or challenging anything you're saying about it. It's just interesting. It makes sense. And if I take it I can kind of relate the two in a way. For me, Irish music, I got into it before Irish music had been commercialized. It was just about to happen. And I grew up my father was a folk singer, professional folk singer, and he started the Philadelphia Folk Festival and was one of the owners of the main folk venues in Philadelphia. And I grew up with people, folk music is characterized by, at least originally, the concept is that it's not commercialized. Obviously, it has been commercialized, and I'm not arguing that, or I don't have a problem with that. But the original idea was that it's more about real people creating music that is unpretentious and not for any other reason than for their own enjoyment and the enjoyment of their community in a way that isn't through the interface of commercial interests. And historically, that has also then consequently represented in times past with the societies that were more based in agrarian context and less urbanized, which the urbanization thing kind of happened primarily in I'm going out on a limb a little bit here, but I would argue that a lot of that centralization happened around in the Industrial Revolution. And again, commercial interests needing a lot of people in one place to fuel their commercial interests. So, and certainly in Ireland, but really everywhere ultimately, but Ireland was, remained an agrarian society primarily for a long time, maybe a little later than some other places. So for me, the music that came out of that context is about that context. It's an expression of a humble situation where people were playing for themselves. They often didn't go 10 miles down the road to the next village, maybe their entire lives. So they were playing for people who were friends and family, and there wasn't a sense of distance from between the audience and the performer. They were just people. They'd hang out in the kitchen by the fire and play tunes or sing songs or tell stories. And we've taken that, essentially the same thing, but it's become, it's grown. This other context has grown up where people are separated from their, the specialization of labor and this, commercialism coming into the fore, money becoming the main medium instead of barter. And all that creates more and more separation. Not that it has to, but it just does. It's just a consequence of this opportunity for separation to occur that is, kind of artificial in a sense. This idea that music evokes fantasy is interesting for me because it's why is the fantasy attractive? It's attractive for some reason. Something about the fantasy is attractive, otherwise you wouldn't be interested in it. So what is attractive about it? Well, there's something being invoked by that is something that's missing in your life, that's somehow been de-emphasized by, working for Amazon or whatever. It's like, you do this job that is not really something you want to be doing, and so you're looking for a way to nurture yourself with something that feels more vital and more true to your spirit. And in Irish music being from this place that was more, people were closer to each other and arguably to themselves and to nature and their own nature. And so that, I think, is something that we're looking for that is often kind of squeezed out of us by circumstance. And I think commercial interests are it's an imbalanced situation where you've got people who are funding stuff in order to make money or to further an agenda or something other than simply joy. And not that it has to be that way or that it's completely that way, but to some extent, at least that opportunity is there and it ends up getting exploited. I hope this isn't too heady, but this is just where my head is at these days about stuff. So I'm just relating though, like what you're saying is so left field for me in a certain sense, and yet I totally get it. And I'm like trying to, integrate the two. Because for me, I grew up playing music, in the house and, with no separation. And the people who were performing at these big festivals and recordings were in my living room. They were coming through the house all the time. So they're just people, and they weren't like these, demigods that were, under lights and separated by all these various layers of commercialized circumstances. So, and then all the promotion that goes along with that in order to make somebody feel like larger than life. So it's, they make you feel compelled to shell out your hard-earned dollars to buy their stuff, and et cetera, et cetera. It goes on and on. And Planxty is an example of the what I would maybe call the second wave of commercialization of Irish music, and I don't mean that in a derogatory term sense. I just mean that it was in that context. I don't know whether how did you hear about me?
I just looked up like Irish musicians in Iowa, and
Uh-huh.
your name
Cool.
your name was the first one that popped up.
I believe it.
Yeah.
I'm one of the few, like very few, really professional Irish musicians in this state. There's a couple that I can think of, me and one other person at the moment, and I think he moved away, if I'm remembering correctly.
I don't think it's from Iowa, but I saw you know who the High Kings are?
The High Kings, yeah.
I don't think he's from Iowa, but I saw him perform live in Des Moines.
Oh, is that who? Which one?
The lead singer for the High Kings. Forgot.
You don't remember his name? There's a guy named uh, Michael.
Yeah, if you ever been to the Hoyt Sherman place, that's a great place to be concert.
Yeah, it's a wonderful venue. It's one of my favorite venues. I've only been there a couple times, but I saw Gillian Welsh and Dave Rollins there, and between the way the venue, the way the sound was treated, and them, it was just perfect. Which is
I
so
thought
rare,
the
you
last
know.
concert I saw there was I saw Steve Vai play there live.
Steve Vai,
Yeah,
wow, and Hoyt Sherman,
that's
interesting.
awesome.
um, uh, anyway, let's see. Um, oh, uh, sorry, I'm just getting a text here.
The one I really want.
Michael Laundra is the guy I'm trying to think of. By the way, he lives in Ames. He's another guy actually, as the
Oh,
third person, and he's from Ireland. He has a television show called Ireland with Michael. He was the original vocalist with Riverdance, and somehow he ended up in Ames. And I just did a gig with him. It was basically a television shoot with Iowa Public Television for a Christmas show just a couple weeks back. Um, and he's like a classic Irish tenor, really high voice, beautiful singer, very emotive, and cool guy. It was the first time I'd really hung out with him extensively, and he's somebody who is very commercial in a sense, and yet very real, and comes from that context where people were doing this, not on TV, not on recordings on through your stereo, but in your living room or in your kitchen, which really was their living room. In Ireland, kitchen was that big open fireplace back in the day, and so that is really my context for Irish music. It's interesting you brought this up and mentioned Andy, because Andy was just here. I run sound at a venue called Cafe Paradiso here in town in Fairfield, and small town, but because I'm here, and the owner of the cafe is a good friend since before he even opened up the cafe. And he's very much into music. We end up getting a lot of, we do nationally touring acts about once a week, and Andy came through just a month ago, and he was amazing, wonderful, really interesting to connect with him
yeah.
now, and he's getting quite old compared to the '70s when the Planxty was cranking. So he's got a different vibe these days, but he's a great character and really brought a lot of magic to Planxty, certainly, and since then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I fell in love with his well, I loved the music at first, but like when I looked at his live performances and Paul pubs, it's just him and Paul Brady playing together.
Paul Brady, yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, that's some of the best stuff. There's the album that they did together is, I think, one of the high points of Irish recorded music, and a lot of beautiful stuff happened. I don't mean to, like when I was talking about commercialism, it's not all bad by any means, and groups like Planxty could survive, like to be a thing at all, exist, and have an opportunity to spend their time and energy making that stuff instead of having to work a job and then being relegated to playing tunes at night, after work. So a whole other thing happens when you have that kind of opportunity and it's being supported by a larger community. So that's pretty cool. I love what Andy did and is still doing. If you're around when he comes back, I don't know when that'll be, but probably in about a year, and you want to make the trek down to Fairfield, it's a long drive, but it might be the closest place that he's playing to. It's quite a different vibe than Planxty, but he plays a lot of those songs in concert.
He'll be here next year?
Probably, yeah.
Nice.
Probably about a year from now.
Yeah. The one I really want to go see is they just opened up like a Dubliners tribute band, and I think they're just performing in like Ireland, but that was the first Irish band I fell in love with. Was Luke Kelly,
Yeah.
my favorite. Luke Kelly's probably my man. He's in the top 3 for my singers of all time. So
Cool.
So yeah, that's what I wanted to get from you today, and I would like your thought if Cold Blow on the Rainy Night. I wonder what your favorite Planxty album.
Well, that's a good question. I have individual tracks that I like. Excuse me. And Cold Blow of the Rainy Night is certainly has a bunch of them on there. I tend towards the more soulful stuff rather than their more upbeat stuff, but I like the upbeat stuff too. Excuse me. I love just go. Got that album right here, and I'm just looking at it. Johnny Cope is a really cool thing. I being a piper, I'm particularly attracted to Liam O'Flynn's playing, and especially on that tune. Actually, he's playing a flat set of pipes that are lower in pitch and consequently have this much more sonorous vibe than the concert pitch pipes. They're it's a slower tune. It's very eerie, and that's exactly the kind of thing that I like. Let's see. P stands for Patty.
Yeah,
that's amazing. That's the one album that Johnny Moynihan is with them. The rest, I'm thinking he wasn't. Am I right with that? Was he maybe also on the one before it? I don't think so. But Johnny's great as well, and these are people. Being a professional Irish musician, I've this is my community. I'm not like close friends with any of them. It was actually this when Andy was here a month ago. That was the first time I really hung out with him. I crossed paths with him at festivals and gigs and stuff, but I hadn't really befriended him, and he's a great guy. I was really honored to get to know him a little bit more. Johnny once stayed at my house after the Bothy band broke up, and Planxty was sort of, I don't remember whether they were happening quite at this moment. There was a group called Last Night's Fun that was Patty Keenan, Tommy Peoples, Johnny Moynihan, and who else? I'm blanking out on it, but I think it was just the three of them. I thought there was another one, but anyway, they played a local gig in Philadelphia, where I'm from originally, and I put them up that night, and was hanging out with them on either side of the gig. So anyway.
I definitely have that. I'll look up when he's touring, but before he got I had never even heard of Fairfield before.
Yeah, opposite corner of the state. I'm about an hour west of the Mississippi, an hour north of Missouri, and you're way up in the upper left corner. But I like Banassa's Green Glade, and Maminsko Horo is cool. They did it's an interesting touch because both Johnny and Andy spent time in Southeastern Europe and got really enamored with Bulgarian music and came back wanting to play that.
Those are my favorites, and to watch them play it live, that video on YouTube. It's one of my favorites.
Yep. Yeah, I was lucky to be over there for the whole summer of 1976 when that album hadn't come out yet, but they were touring all that music, and I got to hear them several times live up close, and it was fantastic. They were at the height of their prowess, and this before Paul was just starting to explore playing non-Irish music, and the traditional Irish music aficionados were not so interested in his original songs that were more kind of pop rock oriented, and then he just kind of pursued that more and more over the years, and got into the whole LA scene. He's good friends with Bonnie Raitt and was involved with a lot of her projects, but back then he was doing the trad thing. He used to play in a band in the 60s with Mick Maloney, who's somebody I played a whole lot with. And a lot of us who came up in the Irish music scene in America in the 70s owe our careers to Mick, who unfortunately died a couple of years ago out of the kind of suddenly, without warning. And so I think a lot of us are still sort of reeling from that. But he played in a group called the Johnstons, and that's when Paul first sort of made his mark on the scene in a larger way. Got noticed outside of Dublin, and Mick as well, and the rest of that group. And then so many things happened right after then in the early 70s. With Planxty and the Bothy band, and of course the Chieftains kind of paved the way to some extent, but they were older and more interested in keeping it traditional in a certain sense. It's interesting because in some ways they weren't, and other ways they were. They stayed more traditional in some ways and yet took it further afield in other ways. Planxty and the Bothy band were more kind of bringing a younger rock and roll pop music mentality to that context, and of course wildly popular, and those two groups particularly I think paved the way to worldwide interest in Irish music, even more than the Chieftains, in a way, in terms of making it a little more relevant. If it sounds a little harsh to put it that way, but I think that for younger musicians who were more into the hype of pop and rock music and the sort of more adolescent sexual energy, Planxty and the Bothy Band were coming out of that context more than the Chieftains were.
That's interesting. Yeah.
So it's speaking of fantasy, it's interesting. One of my favorite tracks from Planxty is off their last album, Words and Music, in the early '80s, and it's called what is it called? Lord Baker.
Oh,
And it's such a window into a fantasy world, and very much, of all their songs, in terms of the lyrics, probably more than any other. And it's so evocative and so romantic, and but not just romantic. Like, there's a lot of their songs were romantic, but this was also this sort of fantasy world. It was almost like a Scheherazade kind of vibe,
yeah. It's counting me down, because I don't have Pro, so
Oh, right, yeah.
but know that. Anyways, my off their albums, The Pursuit of Farmer Michael Hayes is one of my
Uh-huh.
favorite. Well, so
Yeah,
quite
cool.
Anyways, I have one last question before we go.
Uh-huh.
You traveled to Ireland today or Dublin. Is this music still being played in the clubs or no?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, traditional Irish music per se, as opposed to Planxty style of that, where people, the place where this music mostly thrives is in Irish music sessions, where musicians get, it's kind of like a modern extrapolation of what people did sitting in their around the fire in their kitchens, and so it's Irish musicians playing Irish dance music, jigs and reels, mostly, and maybe an occasional song. Meaning, in Irish music, a song is something you sing, a tune is something you play. So you don't call jigs and reels songs, and you don't call, the Ballad of Michael Hayes a tune.
Yeah.
So I tend to use those words like automatically, and I have to remember that not everyone thinks, uses them that way. But anyway, there's a lot of people have turned on to Irish dance music who are not Irish particularly. It's become extremely popular, not just something to listen to, like yourself, where you're hearing these albums going, wow, that's so cool, I love this. It's taking initiative to get into playing the tunes, and usually that does best in context of the bigger cities where there's larger Irish communities, or just larger communities in general, because a lot of the people playing Irish music these days in that context are not particularly Irish. Certainly some of them are, but and originally when I was just getting into it, the only people who were playing it almost were Irish immigrants. I grew up in Philadelphia, large Irish immigrant community, and I started going to the Irish Center there, and there was lots of people playing Irish dance music for the weekly dance every Friday night at the Irish Center, the Commodore Barry Club, which was pretty close to where I lived. Took I could get there in 10 minutes drive, and it was like an extended family, just people hanging out, playing music, dancing, very natural kind of thing. There wasn't a lot of revivalists involved at that time. It was just starting to get into that. I didn't grow up even though my father was a folk singer and part Irish. We didn't grow up in the Irish immigrant community. We grew up in the commercial folk music community. You know, or not to overemphasize the commercial part, but essentially that's what it was. And then when I got into Irish music, I started going to the Irish Center, and that became, you know, this thing that kind of was an example of the rocket that was just starting to take off and head for the stars and never came back. It's just gotten more and more popular. So you can go anywhere in the world, to any larger city. You can go to Paris or Munich or Tokyo or Dubai or anywhere, and there will be an Irish pub there. And where, not that every Irish pub is like this, but there will be in one of the, you know, at least one Irish pub where the local Irish musicians, who may be none of them may have any Irish, you know, ancestry, playing Irish music, possibly quite well. And that has certainly been done in Ireland, all over Ireland. When Irish music, when this started to happen in the early 70s, it wasn't particularly cool to play Irish music amongst Irish people, especially talking about kids, but anybody really, until just about that time. Like in the 60s, not cool. By the mid 70s, it was like, I'm gonna, you know, get into this and get the chicks kind of thing.
Didn't it come around the same time when like punk rock was coming?
That was just starting to come up, but it had really no relationship. I'm going to overstate it by saying it that way. The stuff that you know of, like Dropkick Murphys and the Pogues, that happened on the back end. Like it's an interesting thing because there's some very distinct traditional avenues within the Irish music world, and that don't have much to do with each other. Most traditional Irish musicians would have nothing to do with the Pogues. Yeah. They wouldn't even necessarily have that much to do with the Dubliners, which is cutting it a little finer, but the Dubliners and the Planxty brothers were the first ones to kind of break out into more of a commercial context in the late 50s. And they were actually instrumental in showing that that folk music could be commercial. Yeah. Like they were the ones who led not just Irish music. But that was a very commercialized thing. And then there was this sort of like backroom pub kind of mentality of people who were more singers, and I know we've got like a minute left here. I'm watching that too. So, but what they call the trad scene or the traditional scene, even though there's lots of traditions, what that way that word is used in Irish music is people who play Irish dance music. You know, on fiddle and pipes and whistle and flute and stuff like that. Anyway, we're going to get cut off in a few seconds here, but. The short answer is absolutely yes, but those punk groups were more of a convoluted relationship to what would be called the traditional scene.
Well, it was great experience talking to you today, and
my pleasure.
Yeah, I'm gonna love Irish music till I've gone off this world. So
okay, well, stay in touch. All right. Take care. All right.